Susan, Marty, Mel, and John. And so call to order at 6:30. We have one agenda item. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Okay, Susan and Mel. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. We have an agenda. The item for discussion is fireworks permit for the Colonel Bowl on September 2nd, 2017. Anybody here to tell us anything about the Colonel Bowl or the fireworks? Was there the standard map of showing the end of the track and where it's going to be set up? Or?
I know Gen Star is the one that's going to do it. Same one that's done it the last several years. It's going to be modeled after the same Colonel Bowl setting as last year.
Okay, and if we are in a burn ban situation, we'll have the fire department there, or they'll be there anyway?
Yeah, they'll probably be there anyway. So,
can we make sure?
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions, discussions? Who do we play football that night?
I don't know who it is. Brookings? Maybe.
Okay.
I like to move approval for fireworks.
Yours?
Shown at the Colonel Bowl on September 2nd.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, we are adjourned at 6:32. Maybe for the mayor. Colonel Bowl. There we go.
They went through that really fast.
Travis Carpenter fast.
Yep.
We have invocation from Grace Reformed.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight that in your wisdom you have instituted governments among men for the restraint of evil and for the betterment of society. I thank you for the men and women in this chamber who are giving of their time and energies to serve this city. And we ask now that your presence would be here, granting this body wisdom as they deliberate, that their decisions might be your will. And we pray above all that your blessings would rest upon them and their families for Christ's sake. Amen.
Thank you. Roll call.
Smith. Here. Charks. Here. Allen.
Here.
Barrington. Here. McCardle.
Here.
Dosher. Rice.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Okay, approval of the consent agenda. Items appearing on the consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items.
Move to approve.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. Roll call. Is there any public comment first of all, though? There's no public comment, then roll call.
Olson.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington. Aye. Allen. Aye. Charks. Aye. Smith.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Citizens input. If you need to address the mayor and members of the city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time. Anyone from the audience? Any comments from anybody on the council?
I just want to give a shout out to ACT. I don't know how many people got to see Mary Poppins, but I've been to many Broadway shows, and that rivaled any Broadway show I ever saw. They did a fantastic job.
And to their credit, they sold out. I don't know how many of their performances, but at least the last weekend was, I think, completely sold out, which is a real credit.
Mayor, I just want to mention we're in the middle of the South Dakota Amateur Baseball Tournament, and I've been out there a couple times already, and the field looks absolutely amazing to a point where we normally get compliments, but not to the extent that we're having this year. So Nate, please pass that on to your staff, all the way down to the mowers and everybody else. It is just absolutely breathtaking the way it looks. I mean, you think you're in a major league park is the way it looks like.
And anybody that wants to drive by the Veterans Park at night with the lights lit up, I don't know if anybody's seen it yet. It's beautiful at night with all the lights, and it's worth seeing.
I think the bricks,
I heard that comment.
bricks are going up this week, and I think the sod's going down this week too. Is that correct, Lyndon? And the flag is up too, by the way. Okay, any other comment? If not, we'll move on to the committee report, Public Health and Safety report.
Public Health and Safety met at 6:30. We had one agenda item, was the fireworks for the Colonel Bowl. Discussion of where it's going to be held, and I guess GenStar or Star Fireworks is doing it again, and if we need to have the fire department out there, we can. Motion by Susan, second by Marty, to approve the fireworks permit for the Colonel Bowl. They play Brookings that night. We wish them the best of luck, and we adjourned at 6:32.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is hearings. First one is on the application of Overtime Steakhouse and Sports Bar for a special event liquor license located at the Overtime Event Center, 812 North Raleigh, Mitchell, on August the 19th, 2017 for a wedding. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is a application of Jason Bates doing business as Bates Enterprises for a special event liquor license located at Sabres Specialty on August 19, 2017 for Cruising for a Cause event.
Move to approve.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is action to approve an alternate consumption/event area for the Corn Palace Festival Freedom Stage Entertainment. Want to comment on that, Scott?
Just due to the condition of the sod that was placed in the Corn Palace Plaza, just to, I guess, prevent any further damage to it if it gets to Corn Palace Festival. If it rains hard that week, we had to look for an alternate location to have our Freedom Stage at. So went over, talked to Cully, see if we could use his back parking lot area. Only condition is that if it rains, inch or more week of festival, we would have to move it. If it doesn't rain, we should be good. So this is just basically a backup.
I'm not opposed to this, but if the issue is the condition of the sod, how are we going to keep people off?
There's been
Yeah.
discussions about how to do that best. I think it has to be roped off to stop people from walking on top of it.
We talked briefly this morning about putting caution tape up, but we thought that might look a little bit tacky. So we're trying to look for a better solution than caution tape, I guess.
And one thing I want to point out is up on the map there. So if they have to use the alternative location, it will be the red plus the yellow, not just the yellow. It would just add that additional area in.
So we get past this year, et cetera, and over time, and we'll go through a winter and come back. If we get an inch of rain or drainage is bad, the sod is a
No,
potential
they-
problem in
they
the
told us
future,
we
or is
have
it
to-
just
No.
because it was put down in the last couple weeks?
Yeah, because you have to have 23 days off of it, and we're right at the
Okay.
tail
I
end of it.
wanted, I've already had that question, so I wanted to make sure that that was brought up.
Can I just sidebar and say what a beautiful Corn Palace Plaza that is? And what beautiful sod.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Entertaining motion for the city council to recess and sit as the Board of Adjustment.
So moved. Second.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing of August 21st, 2017. David and Phyllis Mutzinger have applied for a front yard variance of 19 feet versus 25 feet as required for construction of a deck to their home. The property is legally described as east 105 feet of north 1/2, south 10, Weaver Square 10, Weaver Square addition, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota, 425 East Hackberry Street. The property is zoned R3, medium density residential district. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is action to approve, or action to table the Board of Adjustment hearing until September 18th, 2017. Table Board of Adjustment hearing to that date on the application for a conditional use permit for Farmers Union Industries, LLC of Redwood Falls, Minnesota. Expansion of their current performance pet products facility at 1801 Van Dyke Drive, legally described as Lot B, XB1, B2 in X Lot 1 and Lot 2 of Centcom Edition in the north 1/2 southwest, 1/4 section 27, T103 north, R60 west, platted various. City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota. Property is zoned transportation, warehousing, and commercial district.
Move to table.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Entertaining motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn and the City Council to reconvene in regular session.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to award bid for rec center re-roofing, city project number 2017-35 to Great Plains Roofing.
Back in 2015, SCH did a study of the rec center, and in that study recommended 2 different levels of the roof be replaced. So Schedule A on the bid is the roof above the lobby, and this area has a ballast rock on top of the rubber. So so this bid would, remove all that ballast rock, and we would redo the rubberized roof and redo all the flashing. So that's Schedule A, and Schedule B would be the roof above the existing pool. This area we would replace all of the rubberized roofing and also replace all the flashing. SCH recommended that these 2 roofs be looked at because there are areas in the seams where you could see some separation and some areas in the flashing. Both these roofs were put in 1993, and the recommended life is about 20 years. So we're over that 20 years. The park board has also recommended that we have these 2 roofs replaced. So we had 4 bids. We made a condition in the bid that the same contractor would have to be awarded for the bid. So we would recommend awarding to Great Plains Roofing. Bid Schedule A, $40,311, and bid Schedule B, $38,924.
Terry, I don't have any problem with the bid. I'm just wondering, with the current pool project, is there any issue with tying the two roofs in, or does the, above the current pool not go as
Correct.
far?
It goes, it doesn't even go all the way, because the basketball court would join where the pool is, and this doesn't even go to the basketball court. It just butts up right to it, so.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what above the current
Right.
pool, how far that.
Right.
Couple things. I saw we had $115,000 budget and we're only 78,000, so that's good.
That's good.
Coordination with the current construction going on and the timing,
We told the contractor in the
Would-
bid,
would they be in at the parking lot in front of the building, and so we're gonna have access type questions?
yeah, there are going to be access issues. We
Okay.
all know that. We told the contractor that during drop-off and during pickup, we need to limit the amount of traffic that's going to happen right in the front. They're going to be using a lift at times to lift materials
Yep,
up.
yep.
So we told them that
Same block lifts done
they need to not store equipment in the front, but their only access really is going to be in the front. We told them to store materials over on the side of the parking lot, so it's not using up the front part of the parking lot for storage of materials. But we're going to be hauling off all the ballast rock, which is going to be truckloads of rock. We're going to be hauling out to the street department, so we told them to coordinate that and use a different part of the parking lot so we could try to limit the amount of activity right in the front.
And what would be the timing of this?
Well, once we...
Start as soon as possible, or?
We're planning on as soon as possible. So I would think within a month or so, they'll probably get started, which is into the school season. And I think we planned on, I thought it was about a month and a half.
So we have bus traffic
Yeah.
that has to
And they're
still
gonna
go
have to-
through every day,
Yeah.
and
Drop off, they're going to have to just work with that all the time. And we'll be working with the contractor constantly along with the rec center just to maintain a safe working condition for everybody.
Move to award the bids to Great Plains Roofing.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action to approve agreement number A2017-24, Rural Fire Service Agreement with Mitchell Rural Fire District.
So this contract is currently it's only for 3 partial townships in the area, and it covers 48 sections. The rate for 2018 is $416.68 per section, and as it says in there, additional sections of land may be added with a written amendment on both sides. So.
Lyndon, are we still in negotiation with anybody else, or have they turned us down, or they're not interested, or?
I think everybody is kind of waiting on the vote, which happens tomorrow,
Okay.
to see who's going to go along with this, so.
And the beauty of this one is we nailed it down to a per section. So depending on what townships want to come in, then we've already got, because what you're seeing here is an exact amount of expenses divided by the number of fires that we responded to and the expense we had in as a whole department, and just not gas and firemen. It included everything, and so we really got it down to the exact amount that it would be. So they're now going forward, as long as we've spent putting the time together on this as far as negotiating, now our number is in place. And we don't have to negotiate any further, so everybody knows up front what it is. And that way, tomorrow, when if they vote either up or down, they're going to know what their township, what the cost is going to be.
move approval of agreement A 2017-24, Rural Fire Service Agreement.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is action to approve agreement number A2017-26, firefighter EMS training software agreement with Target Solutions.
Paul Morris, Assistant Chief for Fire and EMS, and that's simply just that. It's a software package for training for both firefighters and EMTs. The firefighter package side of it has 450 hours of training that's available to all our firefighters, and EMS is 160 hours of training. So we looked at the price to carry this out through the rest of the year. It's $1,107. We did commit to next year simply because we won't get a price hike. However, if the budget doesn't work out, we have 60 days to cancel it, so we would just need to know by October 31st if my training line item budget for next year is not good. So, and it is a contract, so it does need council approval.
Just one question, and as we talked about software and purchasing 1 year versus 5 years at the Indian Village, any break for purchasing out past 1 year?
You know, it's something I never really investigated. I guess I was always under the impression that you can't really commit future funds for a city.
What do we do on
purchase a product.
software agreements that go beyond a year?
They're just annual maintenance agreements.
just
After you purchase it, it's an annual maintenance agreement that you can cancel in a year.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question that's related, but not related. Do we do any training on live fires? I mean, where we deliberately set a structure on fire for training purposes? I know they do that in some places.
Yep, when we have firefighter 1 and 2 classes in the area, for example, there's some instructors who will put on the firefighter 1 and 2 class. At the end of that class, they do have to do a live burn. And so all of our newer and younger guys who've not had an opportunity to get on that, or if it's been a long time since they've had an opportunity, we'll make sure that they get over there for that. To set up an actual house or a structure to actually burn it for training purposes, there's a lot of work that has to go into that. And it actually costs quite a little money because you have to seal up certain ventilation routes, you have to seal all the windows, you have to seal all the doors, and you have to make it as safe as possible if you follow all the NFPA specs. Yeah.
I have one other related question. It gets to what Steve was talking about. Does training change much? And the point I'm trying to get at is, like if you were in medicine, you wouldn't necessarily want the same training program 5 years out.
Correct.
So is there a lot of change that goes on in firefighter training from year to year?
There's always, depending on what UL has done for testing for fire for different buildings, different types of chemicals, maybe hazardous material situations, there's always new things that are coming out in the fire industry that is a bigger, better way to put out fires. In the big picture, you put the wet stuff on the red stuff, but what improves is the safety of how we do that. All of this training that we do, it all boils down to firefighter safety.
Mel, your question sparked another one for me, and it not necessarily maybe related to part of this because we have a Tesla charging station in Mitchell.
Yes.
Any training on battery fires from electric cars that's part of EMS?
That is a good question. Anecdotal training, yes, but as far as something official that's come in, no. That's something that we actually talked about that last year, and we were going to try to get somebody in here, and the thing kind of fell through, but it's something that has been on the back burner, and we're looking at.
I actually took a picture a couple times of Teslas over there being charged because it's like you don't see them hardly at all, but every once in a while there's one of them over there.
And I know they do talk about that in firefighter 1 and 2 training for brand new firefighters because it has become more of a popular vehicle to drive, and there are some dangerous voltages in there that there are some hot spots you just don't want to cut into with extrication equipment, for example. And I know a number of our firefighters, and I think I've got it buried somewhere in my phone, and there's an app. If we get to a scene where we have to extricate people, we can pull that app up, punch in that particular make and model of vehicle, so that it'll bring up the diagrams and it'll show us where not to cut.
Okay, because I know the Chevy Volts and the Priuses and that type of stuff of the battery location and other stuff has been questions about diving in and trying to cut a car apart and you're cutting through a live battery situation.
And this software package and it's always being renewed and being updated with new training that even fire departments from Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, they'll put together trainings and they'll upload them to this, and it's open source for everybody to be able to go through. And I know I didn't investigate it real close, but I know there was electric car training in there. So, sometimes it's hard to get a company to come in and say, hey, we want you to come in and teach our 24 guys about electric cars and how to put them out, where here it's going to be a lot more, what's the right word? It's cheaper. It's going to be more financially feasible.
I have a, just a point of clarification,
Yes.
because I see on the proposal that the total due is the $37.79. It looks, so is this just to get us through the end of the year, this
No.
2017?
Yeah, and it is kind of confusing the way they've got it laid out here. If you look at that the very first two lines, it says Premier Membership Platform Fire and EMS, 8/1 through 12/31, and then there's a prorated annual maintenance fee of $164. What that charge will be from now to the end of the year is $1,107.
So it does just get us through the end of this year?
$1,107 does, yes. What makes up the rest of that $37.79 would be all of next year's fee, and that fee is $26.72.
And is that budgeted for in the 2018?
I did look, and your training budget was not reduced for 18, so is that what your department requested is?
Right, and I did go through and look at what my specific requests were for that training line item, and I went through and I can tell you what they are if you'd like, but I'm going to reduce some of those different ones by $500 here, $750 there, so that it will cover this. We won't have to have an increase in that line item.
Okay.
We'll stay
thank
the
you.
same.
Move to approve.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Next is action to approve agreement number A 2017-27 with AE2S Dr. Delvin DeBoer to design tower mixer city project number 2017-27.
As you may recall, I believe last summer we talked to the council a little bit before putting this in the budget about what our problem is on the south side water tower. We have a 1.5 million gallon water tower, $1 million gallon water tower. When the weather gets really warm like this and the water warms up, it separates itself and doesn't mix. The top part of that water tower has warm water in it, underlain by the colder, more dense water below. We get chlorine decay and age-related problems, nitrification in that water. And in the past, we've had to drain that tower several times in the summer and make sure we had good, healthy water in that tower. This contract is with AE2S, but it's really with Dr. Delvin DeBoer, who taught water engineering and water chemistry at South Dakota State University until his retirement a few years ago. He taught myself and all of the principals that I know at SPN. Any of the manufacturing companies that make mixers for these towers can come and install a mixer in there. What I really want Dr. DeBoer for the $10,000 to do is to evaluate. We think there are 4 different companies that manufacture those, including SolarBee, for example. I want him to evaluate that, make sure that the chemistry is right, and put us on the road to success for that mixer. We feel, he's told me that even though we have $125,000 budgeted for this, he thinks there's a strong chance of bringing this in under the $50,000 bid limit. So I really recommend Dr. DeBoer. I don't think there's another expert in this part of the state that has his knowledge.
Well, that sounds like money well spent, so I would move approval to authorize the contract with AE2S, Dr. Delvin DeBoer, to design the tower mix.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is action to a table until September the 5th of 2017, number R2017-40, vacation of public right-of-way, described as the north one half of East Andrew Street, abutting Block 21, Weaver Squares addition, an addition to the city of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota, as shown on the plat recorded March 1st, 2016, Book 32, page 3. This portion of East Andrew Street has been described historically as Avenue K East and Avenue K.
Move to table. I guess will we have the legal information we need by that time, or that's just an estimate? Table till September 5th. Do we know?
It was a request to table from the parties. I'm not sure exactly what the basis for their request was. I think they wanted some additional.
So at least until September 5th?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, we had a motion, we had a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is action on resolution number R2017-52, a plat of Lot 3 in Square 17 of Weaver's Squares addition to the city of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota.
This was presented to the Planning Commission at their last meeting, and they did recommend approval. Just to let you know what this is they, a while back, the developers submitted a master plan for 6 lots in there and for duplexes in there at that project. And this is the first plat that comes out of that master plan. And I might also add, this is part of the Clockworks TIF too, so. The Clockworks TIF, yeah. So this is also part of that, so add some increment.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is action on resolution number R2017-53, a plat of Lot 3, Block 5 of Woodland Heights, First Edition, a subdivision of Lot 2, Cranes Edition in the southeast quarter of Section 34, T103 North, R60 West of the 5th PM, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota.
Again, this was submitted to the Planning Commission at their last meeting, and they did recommend approval. This is about the 3rd or 4th house now already in that little area there. So Ethan Development there, right off of Carl Road. Yeah, south of town, south of Walmart and
Move to approve.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is the action on resolution R2017-54, adopting a conflict of interest policy.
I'll try to keep this part short. This is something that we're required to have in place under state law, and up to this point, we haven't officially adopted a policy. The policy that I put together is just a slight modification of Rapid City's policy. It's very similar to the way that we've been operating as far as conflicts of interest without an official policy, but there are a couple of changes, mostly in regards to if somebody believes that they have a conflict of interest or another party has a conflict of interest, we would try to get those, basically ironed out before it came to the actual public meeting. But really, it's just meant to be a summary of existing state law and conflicts of interest, so stuff that we're already all subject to. Maybe we just didn't know about every little nook and cranny of it, but.
I was in the legislature for 12 years, and one of the reasons why there's so many bills up there is you think you're doing A, and you do A, but you also do B, and you never intended to. Does this have any impact on, for example, a firefighter who would have another job, and then you could claim, well, you weren't available Thursday, so that's a conflict of interest? I realize what conflict of interest is supposed to be.
Right. Well, this policy would be separate. We've also got third-party employment or outside employment clauses in each of our various employee contracts or policy manuals. So I don't think this conflict of interest policy would come into play in those situations, but the outside employment under the policy manual probably would.
Another question I have is, I've been on the council now almost 9 years, and I got to say, I think my colleagues, who I respect, are way too sensitive to conflicts of interest. And so people are abstaining on things that I think they really have no business abstaining on. I mean, you can abstain if you want to, but I don't think it's necessary. So, who decides that it's a conflict of interest, or if, there's a vote tonight and now all of a sudden, somebody in the public says, well, gosh, Mel shouldn't have voted on that. So what's the penalty? Do we re-vote? Do I get thrown off the council? I mean, what's the deal?
Somebody may try to challenge the decision. That would probably take court action, or they could possibly try to file an appeal through the city to have us rehear that specific issue. I guess it would really come down to what that party chose to pursue, and I guess how the other council members felt about the extent of that conflict of interest.
I'll give you an example. All afternoon I've had calls on this pig thing. So let's assume that I live on the same block as the people who want to breed pigs, and I vote no. And they say, well, that's a conflict.
I guess we've done some training in the past on conflicts of interest, and I don't think that I know the test well enough to recite it to you off the top of my head, but what it basically boils down to is whether a person has some type of interest that's different than that of a person of, the general population. And if you're in the same neighborhood, I don't know if that rises to that level, but, certainly somebody could sure try to argue that.
I understand we have to have a policy, but we already, now this last year, we had a bunch of candidates who stepped up. But usually, we're begging people, and a lot of times we have open spots and the mayor has to appoint. I just don't want it to be a situation where now members are nickeled and dimed on conflict of interest, and the general public says, well, I don't want any part of that. I'm not going to run and have every one of my business transactions or personal decisions questioned.
Right. Well, what I can tell you is this policy is basically the bare minimum. So if you want to do less than this, somebody needs to change it at the state level.
I'll move approval of Resolution 2017-54.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 02017-09, an ordinance of the City of Mitchell that changes the zoning district classification of the real property legally described as north 100 feet of Lot 1, Block 2, E.B. Bracey's Addition, and the north 100 feet of Lot A subdivision of previously platted Block 1, County Addition, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota, from R2, Single Family Residential District, to TWC, which is Transportation, Warehousing, and Commercial District, and the official zoning map may be changed to reflect the same.
This is the one, this was submitted to the Planning Commission for their review, and they did recommend approval. This is a parcel, 100-foot long parcel, right on the corner of, maybe you can pull the map up. Yep, there it is, right off of 8th and the bypass. The county street shop would be almost directly to the south where that road, gravel road goes south, and then the city street shop would be over on the other, onto the west. So it's a party who has bought that whole piece where it all has A and 1. The party bought all of that, and he's going to be residing in the house, but he's only rezoning just that north 100 feet. He's going to put up a building, 40 by 100 building in that area for his housing his truck and a commercial business. So, and if you may recall, I think it's in there where I showed where the TWC and commercial kind of around that area. And so that was kind of the logic behind the Planning Commission. I mean, you got the open spot over there, but that Lucid's operation is where it says E.B. Bracey's there. And then you get the county highway shop and so forth.
So that 5C is part of the E.B. Bracey's portion?
Can you? The county edition, it separates Bracey's, and then it switches over. I think the A is county edition, and yeah, there it is. 1 is where it says 1, that's Bracy's addition, and then where it says A, that's county addition. That red line separates the two additions.
But you said that there was already a pre-existing
That's where the-
TWC. Is
Yeah,
5C
there's a zoning
part of
map
that?
in the file, or in there, showing where all the TWCs are in there.
Susan, I have the.
Yeah, yeah, 5C.
And 4.
Correct, our TWC. Correct.
Same as this would be.
Yeah, and that's what this is the same. Correct.
That was my question. Thank
And then it's commercial pretty much on the other side.
And where the 4 is, that's Lucid.
Yes, yes. And they own that vacant lot that's to the west of them.
And so 5C is still vacant?
Correct, but
Okay.
it's zone TWC.
That is-
Move to place on second reading.
Any further discussion? About public comment, any public comment? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Move.
Second.
Discussion? Public comment? If not, roll call.
Smith.
Aye.
Charts. Allen.
Aye.
Barrington. McCardle.
Aye.
Gosher. Rice.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Next is the first reading on ordinance number 02017-11, zoning changes regarding animal breeding.
All right, and now for the moment everyone's been waiting for. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is ask you to drop pig breeding from your vocabulary until we get to the next agenda item. This portion of the change would be just in relation to the zoning. Right now, we have a definition called animal boarding, and you can see that in the first part of the proposed ordinance. Under animal boarding currently falls animal breeding. So the first change that we would be making is specifically taking out animal breeding as a part of animal boarding, and then we'd also be defining domestic animal because that's used in the animal breeding definition. The reason that we would do that, and the reason that I'm asking you not to think specifically about pigs right now, is last time we had this conversation, people talked about, well, I'm sure there's people out there that might have a litter of dogs or cats or something like that. And right now, that stuff is all probably happening in a residential area. It would be animal boarding, unquestionably, and right now it's not allowed even as a conditional use in residential areas. So by taking out animal breeding, and you can go through and see, we'll talk about that here in a second, the different zoning areas we'd be adding it into, this would at least allow people in those areas to come to the city and ask to be able to do that kind of an operation. That doesn't mean that we have to approve them or that they'd be appropriate in, even a majority of situations, but at least it gives the person the opportunity to come and ask.
So just up here, so I have 2 dogs, and they came from a litter, and Mama ran out one night and got drunk and met a dog she shouldn't have, and, things happen. So you're telling me that that's illegal right now. I mean, how do you, everybody who has a dog who runs off, they got to come and get a conditional use, and if they don't get it, what, do they got to put the dog down with the pups inside, or what?
No, I wouldn't say that necessarily. But, the animal breeding, in my mind, is something that's done for profit. So what we want to try to prevent is from somebody out there trying to run a puppy mill under the radar. We're trying to bring those types of operations out into the open so that the city can make sure that they're done properly. And because it's a conditional use, really there's no risk to the city because they have to come and ask, and if it's not appropriate, then you just simply deny the conditional use permit.
So I must have missed it. Why is that allowed now under our current?
Why is what allowed?
Well, you said bring the animal breeding out into the open. My understanding is you can't do that now in the city, can you? Animal breeding?
Yeah, right now it wouldn't be allowed, but, for me to sit up here and say that it's not happening, I don't think I can say that with a straight face. I'm sure it's happening out there.
I guess what I'm trying to find out is if it's not allowed now and it's not appropriate for residential areas, why do we even want to make it possible for it to be appropriate?
In my mind, there can be circumstances where it may be appropriate. You know, not everybody may have the same position of where there should be no breeding whatsoever. So if the council's position is that you just shouldn't have animal breeding any time in any residential area, then I agree with what you're saying, Mel, but I don't know that the conversation has ever been focused around, you know, is this something that should even be an option?
And to Mel's point, my question is, so how do you even enforce this? Because obviously you'll still have people whose, you know, pup or cat get impregnated in the night or whatever, and then they have a litter. How do we enforce that? And what do we do? I mean, what do you do if that happens and they don't have a conditional use permit?
I think enforcement's going to be, it's going to depend on the situations. There's a number of different approaches that you could take. One would be to seek an injunction against them doing any of that future activity if they're doing it without a permit. Another would be to have them remove those animals from the city limits. You know, I guess the way that we handle other zoning violations is we usually have them come in and request a conditional use permit if out about a violation that we previously were not aware of.
Okay, I'll jump in here. Justin, I understand what you're saying is because of what's happening now is, I'll call it under the radar, it's not known about, that by allowing a potential conditional use, if there really is somebody out there that wanted to have a dog breeding operation, that they would have to come forward, not saying that they would, but if they didn't, we'd have something to go back on. However, from the calls I received today and in the last couple weeks, I tried to be specific in my discussion with all of them, and some of them I would say understood and some of them maybe didn't. I just don't want pigs. That there's a zoning issue and there's I'll call it a pet pig ownership issue. But almost two, and I've got them written down, I think I had 7, and all but one of them, their predominant concern was, I don't even want the possibility of any breeding operations in residential neighborhoods, period. And this opens it up as a possibility. Even though, yes, they have to go through the Planning Commission for conditional use and they'd have to come back to the council, I feel the omission of a breeding policy might be better than the possibility of a conditional use one. I guess that's that. Everybody I talk to, it's, well, yeah, we have dog owners that aren't good, and cat owners that aren't good, or whatever. We might have a pig owner that's good or bad, or whatever it is, but they didn't want breeding operations in residential neighborhoods. And that was the overwhelming opinion of everyone that called me today. So I understand it puts us maybe in a legal quandary of, okay, so somebody does breed their dog and they sell their dogs, and one, I question, and I know it happens, or they sell their kittens because you see them advertise, oh, kittens. And they might, $5, $10, some dogs might go for hundreds of dollars. And I'm thinking, in most cases, they probably don't have a sales tax license and aren't paying the state and don't have a business permit. But I don't know how that's a lot different in Mel than somebody that has a rummage sale every other week. Because they're not paying state sales tax either.
Steve?
So, yeah, that's all I've got.
Okay, I have a concern with it. That proposal is to allow it in what we call the warehousing, transportation, and commercial areas. We just approved a change over there by Gunstock's place because he wants to store his trucks in there. I changed my mind. I think I'll raise chickens and pigs in there instead because I'm in the area that's zoned transportation, warehouse, and commercial. So what are you going to do about it?
Well, unfortunately, John, I've got some bad news for you because animal boarding is currently allowed in the TWC district, and it's allowed as a permitted use. So right now, somebody could go do a breeding operation in TWC, and it'd be permitted. We wouldn't have to know about it, and they'd be doing nothing wrong.
Well, that's a different issue then. But I could see this deal. That's in the city. People live there and drive there, and I mean it's in city limits, and we would have to allow what you're saying.
Yep.
Not right.
And I can.
I was just going to say one quick thing. I mean, there's breeding and there's breeding. And we need to make a distinction between people who are deliberately impregnating animals to raise them to sell, and like the case where I got my dogs, the dog ran off and got pregnant. And now it becomes, how do you determine which is which? We let the first sale go through, the first letter, but the second letter you got to come in? I mean, I don't know.
And I was going to say I can appreciate all of the comments, but to me it kind of comes down to if it is a conditional use, it's a neighborhood decision. And there's very legitimate individuals out there and do a very good job, and their neighbors are quite comfortable with it. And if that is the case, then the Planning Commission, if we do move forward with this, the Planning Commission and the Council then can take that into consideration when, and maybe they're very comfortable with having this type of operation, and in the area they see very little traffic and they don't hear the noise, and there's got to be situations out there, or Linda would be getting phone calls and then come to find out that right now it's not allowed at all in the city. So to me, when you put a conditional use on, it's serving its exact reason why you would do that is you let the neighborhood help you decide. And in some situations they don't want it, and I would certainly think that the vote would be no. In others, they have no problem at all how it's working. And for those legitimate services that are out there right now, I don't have a problem with continuing with it.
One thing I was looking at is try to consider some of these areas out here. Obviously, something on 13th Street, pretty self-explanatory. The answer is no. Something that might be out by the lake, or maybe out in the, just way out in the end of town where there's nothing going on and there's just one house, but they're in the city limits and they're zoned under, something up here where they'd come to us and nobody cares. The next neighbor's a block and a half away. It might be okay for that person, but they got to go through the steps, like you said, planning, come to the council and get all this permission. I'm not really opposed to this thought process either. By any means, it's not saying it's okay to do it. It just gives that level of bureaucracy for somebody to come to us and find out if we can get approval to do it or not. And then we always have the right to say no. And there might be that one instant that, hey, perfect place for it.
I think if I could just go back, I know Steve drew an analogy to a garage sale. I think the difference in my mind is if you've got stuff that you're putting up for sale at a garage sale, nobody cares if it's getting proper vet care or if it's being stuffed in a kennel for weeks at a time without, food or water or anything like that. At least this way, we'd be able to know who's doing what operation, and we'd be able to make sure that they're doing it properly.
The one argument of the neighborhood, if it's okay, neighborhoods would change. I mean, all of a sudden, a new neighbor buys a house and says, I didn't know that. Why am I stuck with this deal going on 3 houses down? I didn't know it when I bought this house.
Right, and the neighbors would have to take that into consideration when they sign off on the conditional use, as they may hurt or help the value of their property. But it's also the decision. Well, you had mentioned if you didn't know that, that's one thing. But if you did search the area that you were looking at and there was a conditional use, then you would have that information, and then you can decide to buy if you don't. But I understand what you're saying if you don't have that information, but it is public, so they could go and search it out.
Books, and they don't have it, they're being anyway.
One other thing I wanted to say to the council here on this issue is if you just take a look at the different districts that we included for conditional use, basically we just included all of the residential districts and the districts where animal boarding is currently a conditional use. I don't know where the council wanted to draw the line or if they want to even consider this at all, but if you wanted to remove one or more of those, if you didn't feel it was appropriate to one area versus another, that would certainly be an option too.
Has the planning commission weighed in on this at all?
Yeah,
They
approved
did.
it.
And I think they voted 3-1 in favor.
Well, get us off dead center. I'm going to move approval of first reading of ordinance 2017-11.
And with that, I'm going to second that, with the thought that it's first reading, given our constituents 2 more weeks to weigh in on it.
Right.
Well, and this is all I've heard about since I came back from Alabama in June. And the first people who called me thought it was a done deal. And apparently the resolution was printed in the paper for consideration at the next meeting. And I had a number of angry people that we would, go ahead and do this. And so I'm grateful that we haven't done it yet. I've heard from a lot of people, and I think 2 more weeks is just going to upset more people. So I would urge you not to put this on first reading.
And my motion was as such that it has nothing to do with the next discussion item, but in reality, trying to take care of the legitimate businesses that we currently have out there, in which they do a very good job. So that's the reason I moved on this.
And I'm behind you, the fact that I was being directed by council to remove the word pigs from my decision on why I second your vote. So, and I did.
We have a motion in a second?
I believe so.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
No.
Roll call.
Olson,
No.
Rice,
No.
Gosher, McCardle,
No.
Barrington,
Aye.
Allen,
No.
Sharks, Smith.
I thought the the yays must have been a little louder than the nays, because it was 4-4.
A couple switched over.
I'm an aye.
Would you say it's
3 to 5.
3 to 5? Okay, so it carries? Oh, no, nay, it did not carry, I'm sorry. Look at that backwards. So, next is the first reading on ordinance number 02017-12, revised animal control ordinance regarding hogs.
Well, and given the previous item, I don't know how much you want to hear from me, so I'll just open it to the council.
Justin, I wasn't here when apparently this was first discussed. Do we have a list of approved pets in town?
Not exactly. We do have a few different animals that we specifically prohibit, but not, an exhaustive list of things that we do not.
So my wife worked at Okoboji when she was in college, and the guy she worked for had a pet alligator. I mean, what animals do we say you can't own in town specifically? Not that somebody would be in the market for an alligator, but.
The restrictions that we have codified are in relation to fowl. So, ducks, geese, chickens, things of that nature. And then we've also got a restriction on livestock within the city, which that's what the hogs fall under. I don't know if some other types of animals may fall under a more broad restriction, but of say a dangerous animal, but I don't think there'd be anything specifically that says you can't have an alligator here.
Is there a definition of livestock by weight, or is it by breed?
We have a couple of subsections. The first says no person shall keep any horse, cow, goat, or sheep. The second has to do with buildings, and then the third has to do with hogs. So none of them specifically talk about breeds or weights or anything like that.
I guess what I'm trying to get at, there's that pet store on Havens, and I can't remember its name. But
Davison County. Davison County.
no, the one then the old A&W building. Yeah, and
It's like
there's
the
a
pet
little
boutique.
pet pig there, and it's the cutest thing ever. And if you rub its belly, it just falls over and loves it. Would that be a hog?
Yes.
And Mel, that was part of the earlier discussion. And I know Ed's Pet World sold potbelly pigs and knew some people that bought them, and so technically they had them illegally at their house. Down there, yeah, at the store. So that was illegal also. The other question that came up during the earlier discussion was pet snakes. I know of a couple that people have, I don't know the exact breed, but big snakes, like 20-pounders, that they have as pets, and I don't know where that fits in our definition either, but kind of in the previous discussion, so if we don't allow a pet pig, then everybody that's got one is illegal, and then how do we don't make them register dogs or cats, why would it apply to snakes, pigs, anything else? I don't know where you end up with that. This proposal has and you brought up size or weight. This has 50 pounds is what under 50 pounds, but I'm not assuming we're going to go weigh them. But I mean, what would the enforcement be if I'm the neighbor and, boy, that pig's bigger than 50 pounds, I call animal control and they come over and weigh it?
Would be a pretty accurate guess.
What am I, a diet,
And I guess we chose that based on the breeder's statements that those breed of pigs typically don't get any larger than 30 to 40 pounds, so.
Why do we have to go this way? Why can't we just amend this particular language to say commercial hogs or something like that, and then we can live and let live? Rather than get into the business. You know, I've got two wiener dogs, and they're more like sausage dogs than wiener dogs. So if you come weigh them, you know, I got to say they're a different breed because they're not a wiener dog anymore, you know.
They're not purebred wiener dogs?
No, they're not, because their mother got drunk, I told you. But, you know, your point about Ed's Pet World is a great one. And, you know, when my kids were little, we always went back and pet the pig. And boy, he was not 50 pounds. Well, he was a big one. So, I mean, do we have to legislate everything? Can't we live and let live? I don't know.
So how many hogs can you have then? If I got a house, how many hogs can I have there?
We didn't put a number limit on them because we don't have one in place for any other type of animal right now.
So breeding would be the only issue, right, as it sits right now.
Right.
You know, at that pet store, that's a great little pig. I mean, she really is. And I would hate to see us, you know, go on a pig roundup in town. But on the other hand, you know, people's concerns about, you know, folks building big sheds and, you know, having a little mini livestock operation, you gotta honor that too.
My husband reminded me that as a farm girl, and I don't know, I just have such a fondness for baby pigs. So this has been a really hard thing for me because, and for small pigs. I mean, I think I said to begin with that I really hope that we could work something out. But I have had an overwhelming number of people that are expressing concerns about this. And so certainly, as a member of the city council, I recognize that I'm here to represent the views of the people of my ward and of the city. On a personal level, of course, yeah.
Hello, I'm Cassandra Bundy. I have the pigs. I didn't get to meet you last time. The people that are calling you with these concerns about my pigs are not my neighbors. I brought in the first time I came in here with my pictures.
And I'll stop you right there. And I represent your ward, and your neighbors are all the people that called me.
Well,
Yeah,
they all signed a paper saying they were okay with it because they could not hear them. They, you know, there was.
Well, they've changed their minds then.
I got the same house.
Okay. Well, I'm going to come here. They are my pigs. I take care of them. I understand that you guys' concerns before were that people don't take, you know, there could be bad owners. But that could be the same with a dog, a cat, fish. You know, I understand that. If you tell me no, I can't breed them, fine. But I would still like to be able to keep them because they are my pets.
Is there some way that we can grandfather in whoever has a pig now and just, you know, have, you know, Ed or whoever else handles pets as a public service, say, you know, in town, you know, pigs are not an option?
I don't think that'd be workable.
Because you couldn't prove that, you know, I get it. Well, I just, again, I absolutely understand why they're adorable. And my only experiences with this, you know, pig in the pet shop who, if she turned her back, I'd take home with me. But again, you can see the neighbor's concerns, if there's no limit. It's the same thing with dogs, now I got a dozen dogs in the backyard. Or cats, yeah. I don't know. Will you come up to the microphone, please?
This is the first I heard of this breeding situation type thing. Karen Mastel. And I live in the Hanson Street, or Avenue. This is the first I have heard of it. This is something I came to find out what all this is about. I am opposed to this type of thing. I think pigs are livestock, and if livestock are not allowed, then that's part of the same thing. I live right down there, and I don't want it there.
Marie Peterson. We just moved to this area without the knowledge of this operation, and we are highly opposed to it. Our property evaluation for one reason, and the odor. How many of you would like to have a pig operation in your neighborhood? Ask yourself. Raise your hand if you want pigs in your backyard.
Marie, we've already decided on breeding. Do you have an objection to if somebody owns a pig like they own a dog? A little pig?
One pig?
No.
Fine, but to breed them?
Right. Yeah, we've decided we're not allowing that. Right now, we're talking about people who already have pigs in town as pets, who maybe, shouldn't have, but the pet store sold them back in the day. The pet store had one.
Okay.
And now are we going to, rip that animal pet away from those people? That's what we're talking about.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for serving.
Thank you. Anyone care to make a motion? I guess someone else.
We got more comments?
I did not plan on coming here tonight, but I do have an issue, especially with what she just said. Deb Burando, and we live 2 doors down. They did not bring a petition around to the neighbors to sign. There was nothing that even said there were pigs in the neighborhood until we found out from someone else that they were unloading pigs into their house. So there was no petition signed. None of the neighbors were aware of this. Unless you've got pigs that don't smell, I don't know. I grew up on a farm. Pigs stink. I mean, there's just, I don't want a pig as my next door neighbor. We've got dogs that are barking 24/7, but we don't want pigs out there making the dogs bark even more yet. So we are totally against the idea of them having pigs living next to us. Grandfathering, clausing, other pigs that are already here, you can't rip them away from family, but I don't want to live next to them. And, smell, there's no way that you're going to guarantee that those things are not going to smell.
So how long have you lived in your home? Excuse me.
6 years this month.
So are you smelling the pigs as it is?
Unless it's imagination, every now and then I get a whiff. I don't know, like I said, maybe it's imagination that I'm smelling them. I know my husband has commented before, he says, go outside and see what you can tell. And it's like, okay, am I smelling this? Occasionally I have smelled something, not positive. It's definitely not the same odor that we had on a farm, but they're not, sure. I'm not seeing them outside yet. So whether they're outside, whether they're in the shed, I love what you've done to your property, don't get me wrong in that, but I don't want pigs as my neighbor. I don't want them there. I live in town for a reason. If I want to have pigs and chickens and whatever else, I'll move out in the country, I'll raise them out there. You have your farmers that are fighting for years because they don't want hog confinements next to them. this isn't a whole lot different. We're living in a small-town community. 6, 7, 8 pigs is a lot for a residential area. No different than you have a farmer who's raising a couple hundred that live out on how many acres of land. I don't want it, and I know that there's a number of neighbors that we've talked to today that are totally against this, and I think I talked to messages, I've left messages, and I've talked to some of you, and you know, talked to some neighbors before coming in tonight. It's all the same thing. They're just, we don't want them. And I was under the impression after the last meeting that you had that it was a pass deal. So to see the paper today to find out that there was another option to voice our opinion. But like I said, there was no petition brought out that neighbors signed at all.
So a question that one of them gentlemen asked over here a little bit ago, the fact of one pig as a pet, and not raising pigs, not 6 pigs, but one pig as a pet like a dog, because the last lady answered. I just personally, can I have your answer?
I would never want a pig as a pet.
Right.
But some people, you mentioned the snakes. Someone talked about a boa constrictor that lives 2 doors down from, not in my neighborhood, thank goodness I'm aware of, but they have a neighbor with a boa constrictor in their yard, and I'm thinking, you got to be kidding. Each person to their own. I'd rather not see a pig. I mean, I know what they do. Like I said, I grew up on a farm. Pigs are dirty, filthy, stinky animals.
Right. I don't disagree with it. It's the fact that you lived there for 6 years, and I don't know how long you've had pigs there.
They've only
again.
been here for about a year or so, and the pigs have only been there for a couple months.
Right.
We've been there over a year.
Over a year?
Yeah.
We've been there almost
And
2.
But the pigs just came in the spring. So.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have 6 of them.
6 of them.
Yeah, do you want to live next door to them? I mean, like I said, I've not smelled them, but if you're looking at breeding purposes, which I think you guys all said no on, right? So at least that is one option, but our opinion, I don't want to live next door to some pigs.
I will tell you that over the past couple of weeks, our animal control officer has had people ask him that if this passes, will the council allow other types of farm animals as pets? Some of them are specific of what type of farm animal it will be that they would request it. Others left it vague, but a few of them have been pet chickens and pet turkeys.
And I will say that that is one of my concerns, is that what this opens, and actually, what I see happening from this are the going to the miniature goats, which are equally darling, let me just say. I belong on a farm. Anyway, which are equally darling, but that is, once again, we need something we really need to consider in this, and what the ramifications of voting in favor of this would be or voting against it. So.
My last thing to say regarding her comment, she said she grew up on a farm or people don't want 200 pigs living. You think of livestock. That's not a 20-pound miniature pig. That's a 300 to 700-pound pig you raise to butcher and eat. They're completely different. They're even different than a potbelly because they don't have the swaying belly. They're 20-pound pigs. We just weighed them. My biggest one weighs 21.5 pounds. 21.5 pounds. My dog, my German Shorthair Pointer, weighs as much as 4 of them. So, I mean, they're not... And they don't smell because we take care of them. You know, we have them outside all the time. We bathe them. They get shots. They go to the vet. They're a pet to us. They're not livestock like everybody's trying to make them out to be.
Thank you. Well, I think we've had enough discussion and comments. Does anybody care to make a motion?
You know, I understand the attraction of the potbelly pig, and that's what I was talking about at that pet store. But I think the comments that Susan made about opening the door and the chief, I guess I'd like to not see this go on first reading and then, you know, people who have them now kind of wink and a nod, and I don't know.
And, you know, you gave us a very good explanation last time, and it's too bad not everybody was able to hear the fact that there's several pig owners throughout the United States that have them because they're allergic to dogs, and you did a very good job in explaining. But the situation we're in is not everybody in Mitchell heard those explanations. And so, honestly, I have heard more comments on this particular subject than I have probably the last 3 years on anything else that is coming up. And that's what they're definitely afraid of. It's livestock to them. To you explained it extremely well. I asked you last time when you went and got your third pig, where did you get it? And you told me exactly the city. And I said, does that city allow pigs? And you said, yes, they have in place. So, you know, I think it's more of an educational thing of just like our pet store being able to explain that it's sold in a pet store, so it's a pet, and I don't think the majority of Mitchell is there yet, and I just feel that you know it probably needs to be explained a little bit better, but as of right now, there's no support out there at all of the people that contacted me. Now there might be some people that are supportive, but they didn't call me at all, and it was people that lived, like I say, in your neighborhood. Now, given the fact that you do care for them, you know, if we had all the neighbors come up and say, you know, we got a noise problem, we got a smell problem, we got all this kind of problem, I firmly believe you are taking care of. But as far as where Mitchell's at right now, and that's more than likely why the breeding got voted down, is the comments that we've been receiving is all the negative. But, you know, we did vote down chickens. You guys weren't on here, but it's about a year ago. And we had a very good discussion, and the decision was, you know, at that point, if you want livestock, it basically belongs out in the country. And that was kind of the consensus, and I think the majority of the people did, but approve that. But I think right now, as Lyndon opened up, I mean, it's almost endless. If we then you've got to start a list, you got to start defining, and then you got crossbreeds, and you know it just opens it all up. And I just think as it sits right now, we're going to have to let Mitchell catch up to some of the other bigger cities that are doing it, because we're just not there right now.
Make a motion now. Did you make a motion?
Nobody has yet. I'll move that we do not place this on first reading.
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Before we adjourn, I know you're tired, it's been a long meeting, so I'll be brief. I just want to expand a little bit on Jeff's comment about Cadwell Park. Over the last couple of years, we've made some changes out there, getting them the proper equipment, and Jeff and the mayor and Stephanie have all encouraged it over the last 2 years. Over the last 20 years, they've struggled a little bit, but I'm going to give Dan Dobish and Jeremy Nielsen credit because they've accepted ownership and taken some pride in their job out there this year. And starting last year, we got them on a proper chemical program, proper mowing equipment, a proper sprayer. We got them on the pesticide, herbicide, fertilizer programs, and proper mowing techniques, growth regulators, and it has made a big difference. And the field, a couple of comments from various councilmen, and I talked to Jim Johnson. They're very happy with it, and I think that the improvement trend at Cadwell will continue over the next few years with the people that they've got in place.
The picture that you had in the paper, I believe it was last week, with the striping was unbelievable. It was very nice. It was.
We've moved them into the next level of golf course quality maintenance, and like I said, they're listening. I spent time with them over the winter, training them, teaching them agronomics and turf principles, and they're paying attention. They're listening very well. So, thank you.
And Mayor, there hasn't been that cooperation before, and so it's just really nice to see And in all reality, we've got the best grass person in the state, and he happened to just be speaking at the microphone. So, Kevin, for you to be sharing some of your expertise, and then the other individuals willing to accept it and apply what your knowledge is, I mean, like I said, go out and take a look at it, and you'll see why. But I appreciate everything you've done too, Kevin, because you went out of your way to do some seminars for them, and you didn't have to do that. So, we appreciate it.
All about teamwork. Thank you, Kevin. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned.